our keynote sessions, featuring globally renowned experts who have shaped contemporary research and innovation across disciplines. I am truly delighted to inviting our next esteemed guest as our keynote speaker, Mr. Anindo Bose, Executive Editor at Springer Nature Group, London, UK. Mr. Bose has been an instrumental in driving strategic editorial vision, fostering international collaboration, and supporting cutting-edge scientific scholarship across the world. His leadership continues to influence how research is published, disseminated, and accessed globally. His portfolio includes monographs, edited volumes, professional books, textbooks, atlases, and conference proceedings. He has more than 30 years of industrial experience in marketing, editorial, and different fields of publishing. Mr. Bose has completed master's degree in organic chemistry from Delhi University and in marketing research from Symbiosis Institute of Management Studies, Pune, India. He has delivered more than 280 invited talks on scientific writings and publishing ethics in reputed universities and authors' workshops. He has been awarded the Editorial Excellence Award by University of Engineering and Management, Kolkata in 2024 in recognition of his distinguished work in publishing. Mr. Bose has traveled to 32 countries and delivered several keynote lectures in international conferences. He has published books for secondary level in chemistry and is a member of American Chemical Society, USA. His contribution to the global academic publishing and research dissemination has been extraordinary. His work in shaping global scientific publishing and research dissemination makes him invaluable presence, sir. Sir, we request you to deliver your speech, and for that I would request, Dr. Abhishek Bhattacharya to come and give memento to sir.
Good afternoon, welcome back. So before giving the presentation, I got my certificate and memento, so I can go home. There's no need for any presentation. Yeah, I know. See, the whole objective of talking about open access is that the world is talking about open access since 2012. And we are talking about open access since 2005 as a publisher. But still, there is a lot of information which is actually lacking among people. You know, they really want to know many things about open access, but a lot of information is hidden, a lot of information they don't know. And we are also trying to reach more and more people about it so that you get to know that what exactly is open access and how you can contribute, how you can get to publish your work in OA form. So today I am going to tell you about the fundamentals, basically, give some information where, and my presentations are always like this. These are not academic presentations. These are more information driven presentation where, I will tell you about the websites, I will tell you about books, I will tell you about the policies where you can go and you can find more information. It's need based. And whenever you need to know where to go and how to find that. So, anyone know this person? Sir Anthony Panizzi? Interesting guy. We all know about open access very recently, but this gentleman, he was the principal librarian of British Museum from 1856 to 1866. In those 10 years, he was the person who was promoting open access at that time. He said content is something which should be shared by all. And that is something what we believe in our organization also, because when we go out and sell content at a very high price, like when you see a Springer book, the price is almost 250 euros, 300 euros. Normal paper will cost you something around 25 euros. It's impossible to buy so much content. These contents are only possible only the institutions can buy them, or libraries can buy them, right? You read one research paper per day. 365 research papers in the whole year. How can you buy with 25 euros of each? It's impossible, right? And that is why we need content in open access form. Now, there is a counter always. Open access is a paid model. But who is paying? We say it's an author pay model, but I will give you more information where you will find author never pays. Institution pays, funding bodies pay, and there are other people who pay partially or fully, but at the same time you get an opportunity to publish OA so that content can be disseminated to low income and middle income countries, and that is very important for the growth of any domain. If it is just going to people who can afford it, science will die. We need people from all these different countries, low income countries, middle income countries, to participate, contribute, and also they should come up and work with everyone. So we will see how it is possible. A little about the organization before I move ahead. You all know this horse very well. This is the Springer logo, and 1842 we started this organization. This person, Julius Springer, which is his name, and he only started this organization, or rather as a small bookstore in Berlin. Interestingly, when he started this bookstore, he was getting a lot of customers, and these customers are Nobel laureates. And then he thought, why not jump into publication? And before jumping into publication, a lot of questions came to his mind. But we are not the first publisher or something like that. A lot of big publishers were already there. Any idea who is the first publishing company? Who is saying that? Who said this? Wow, thank you. I am asking this question for last 5 years in many forums. I never got an answer. Thank you so much. Cambridge University Press, they are basically, they are celebrating 490th year this year, and they started long back. You all very well know Oxford started almost 1000 years ago. Cambridge started 850 years ago. So I had an opportunity to live in Cambridge for last 3 years. And when I was there for a year, people asked me, when I came back to India and go to conferences, they asked me, so how is Cambridge? So I always say the IQ level of Cambridge is very high as a city. Thankfully, I have added something to it, not reduced it. But it's a beautiful place. And interestingly, 70% of the city is owned by university. And you can very well see all the professors and students are just roaming around everywhere and doing that. So that's the oldest publisher. We are not a very old publisher. We are just there for 180 years. In the publishing world, they are just still a kid. And just you can very well imagine the name has changed to Springer Nature. So how come Springer Nature? Springer started in 1842. Macmillan Science and Education, Macmillan publishers, you all know Macmillan, they started in 1843. Nature is another journal which came in 1869. So all of them, they came together, So there is a bonhomie between all these companies. When you cannot take over a company, you marry that company. So they have a joint venture, and this Springer Nature came up, and that's we are just celebrating 10 years of Springer Nature. It started in 2015. So our company started in 1842, and then we moved to Vienna. Then we moved to 1946 after Second World War to Heidelberg. Now the biggest office is in London, where I work. Few quick numbers. These numbers are always good to understand an industry, good to understand what exactly we are doing, what authors are doing, how big or small this industry is, what is the direction. These are 2024 figures. 25 we will complete in December, and then we will get the figures. If you look at this first number over here, 2.3 million articles. It means Springer, single publisher, we have received 2.3 million articles in 2024 for journal publication. So you can very well imagine how many articles are there in circulation if only one publisher is getting so many articles. Second number is 482,000 articles we have published out of it. It is almost 20% articles we have published, little more than that. Out of 482,000, if you just see the number over there, 50%, that is the open access number. We are very proud of that, because in 2021, our management said by 2024, we will try to make 50% content open access. So we have done that. But the next target is by 2030 we will make it 90%. I really don't know whether we will be able to achieve that or not. We also publish good number of books. Springer used to be known as a book publisher, till the millennium, and we publish almost 14,000 books every year. There are few SDG numbers also. You all know what is SDG, like Sustainable Development Goal, which started in 2015, and this is 17 goals and 169 targets. The very same year, we started with our publication, so we have crossed 1 million. 13 million plus submissions, and again if you see 53% are basically open access. So the whole idea is to make content open access so that we can reach more and more readers. Open science, before we move to open access, you need to understand what is open science. Open science is the broad diagram. If you see over there, you see there, open science, and open science is basically related to everything which is open hardware, open source, open data. People who are working with data, they very well know how difficult it is to get data, and data is something which is always, have their hidden things there, and we don't get a good data, and when you don't get a good data, we are talking about it since morning, you don't get a good output and all. So definitely data is always an issue. Once you start getting open data, that will really, really help us. And this is a big part of open science. Open science is the most debatable issue in global market, but open access publication is one of the elements of it. And this is basically discussed on 17th of February 2021 by UNESCO. This whole thing was discussed, and eventually, all the publishers, they came together under the STM body and started talking about, okay, we will, although it started long back, 30 years ago, but eventually this thing is coming up. In last 3 years, the numbers have really, really increased. People are getting to know about it, and all the institutions are also trying to help their, faculty, their research scholars, so that they can get more and more OA content. So OA is what? Free, immediate, online. That is the availability of the content. So it is free means how free? Because it is basically the reader, they don't have to pay anything. So it's free. Who is going to pay? The author. As I said, it's an author pay model, but usually authors are not paying. As I said, institutions are paying. So basically OA content is open to all with no access fees. And open research, it will go a little beyond that, basically boundaries of publications to consider all research outputs. So little background, if you want to know a little more about OA, the best thing is to buy this book, which is basically published by MIT Press, open access book by Peter Subert. You can just go there and you can see what exactly it is. It's a very 100-page book and give you a concise detail about OA. The term open access was coined in Budapest Open Access Initiative, which was in 2002 February. Interestingly, if you see, the first OA book was published in 1866. I talked about Panzini, and during that time, and more than 100 OA books were published first time. So many books were published in 2003. The practice of OA journals, this is something started in 1995, but books started late. Books started around 2005. These are the two big directories. DOAJ, which is a journal directory. Sometimes people confuse this, or they ask us, is it an indexing body? No, it is not. They are just directories. And first one you can very well see, there are 22,261 journals are basically a part of it in 91 languages, and 140 countries are represented there. And directory of open access books. So this directory of open access books, this started in 2012. Till 3 years ago, in 2022, the number was just 62,000. So in 10 years, 62,000 open access books were actually included in this directory. In last 3 years, 40,000 more are included. So the number is growing, and we are putting more and more content in open access model. What are different types of open access? So there are different types, mostly different color. I don't know why they are color coded, but these are the colors which you will find usually when we talk about it. First one is gold open access. Gold open access means that you submit your work from the very first day it is published, it is open access and it is available for the readers. Green open access is another type of open access where there is an embargo period. So if it is open access, after it is published, maybe an embargo of 24 months or 48 months depending upon the policies, it will be open access. The challenge here is when it is green open access, it is also available, but it is not available on the website of publishers. So what publishers are basically doing, publishers like us, when it's gold open access, it is basically open from day one and our marketing team and promotion team and everybody is making that content available to everybody and it is getting reflected everywhere. But green open access, the issue is the authors themselves are making it open access either in a repository or in the institutional website and it is very difficult that it doesn't get promoted, So that content stays there. That is a basic difference. Although after 2 years both the content will be open access, but this is a challenge. Then we have diamond open access, and this is something which started very recently and everyone is basically looking forward to that, where no one pays. But this is a wrong statement. Someone has to pay, right? there is no free lunch. Someone will pay. So author is not paying anymore. Reader is not paying anymore. So more or less you will find funding bodies and government institutions, and government is trying to solve these matters, and this is happening in Germany, this is happening in UK right now, and we are trying to see if this is a tie-up between the publisher and the government. At least the people who are there involved in the whole process as an author or as a reader, they don't have to pay anything, and as a whole institution is also not going to pay anything in a piecemeal matter, and the whole thing will come from the government itself. Then we have hybrid open access. Hybrid open access is a very old thing, that something which is a subscription model we have, where you can make things open access. Suppose we are talking about this conference itself, there are 160 papers. Now out of those 160 papers, suppose there are 2 authors, they want to make their work open access. So they can make it open access. So the book will be closed one. With all those 158 articles will be closed, where you have to subscribe and buy it, but 2 articles where can be made open access, and that is called open choice. Then we have bronze, black, brown, there are many. So you can actually put these names in Google and you can see what exactly they are. Now there is an important thing which I would like to highlight here is basically all the works which are published in OA form, they need to have a license. And this license is basically provided by Creative Commons. So this is just a basic idea, the infographic over here. You can see the first one is the by default license, which is called CC BY. CC BY is basically where you can copy, you can distribute, you can use the content and in another work. Similarly, there are different things are there. So if you just go to Creative Commons site, you will see what all licenses are available and which license is basically useful for your work. Whether it's a non-commercial one, whether it's a non-derivative one, which you can use for your content. Now, why you publish open access? Obviously, there are benefits. That is why people are going and publishing open access. Increase citation, definitely when the content is available free. So more and more people will read them, more and more people will cite them. That's there's no rocket science in it. Greater public engagement, wider collaboration and faster impact. So when it is going to people, obviously it is going to have a much better impact. So publishing an open access in a gold form, if you see, it usually gets 2.4 times more citation, 10 times more downloads and 10 times more online mentions, because online mentions are also very important nowadays. If someone else is mentioning your work in a positive way, so definitely it is going to have a lot of impact in your domain. OA funding. This is the page, springernature.com/in/open-research. This is the page where you can go and look for funders. I am a true believer that if you ask, then you get. Nobody is going to come to you and give things. You have to go and ask for it. There are more than 300 funding bodies, and these 300 funding bodies have a lot of institutions are involved and a lot of funding bodies are there. For journals, basically journal articles, but for books there are around 70 to 75 funders who are doing it. Most of the cases, 90% cases, you will find there is a partial funding. It's not the whole funding. Whole thing is not funded. But even if you are getting a partial funding, just imagine if you have some money, because still we have an issue here that if you go to Western countries or developed countries, you will find when you have a project, there is a publishing grant which is also available with your project, which is not a case in India. We don't have a publishing grant over here. So when we take that partial thing from a body, another partial part is someone has to give that, right? And usually the guide or the mentor or professor of yours, or project in charge, they are going to put some fund into it, and this is how. But even if you are getting a partial thing, it is better to go for it, take it and go for open access. Open access policies. Now, importantly, there are certain policies and you have to be very much informed with it, because policies are important, information is important, and guidelines and regulations are very important. Because as I said in the morning also, we are living in the world where a lot of things are fake. And we are, I don't know whether we are getting involved in this whole process, how we are basically behaving at that point of time, but sometimes we don't do something from our side, but we also get entangled in the whole process in such a way. So if you know the policy, if you know the guideline well, then it's easy for you to understand what is happening behind the curtain also, and you can take care of all those measures. So there is a journal policy, there is a book policy, there is a data policy, and you can see all these policies in this particular page. So these are all need-based, things. When you have a need, you know where to go and where to look for. See, here I would like to highlight one thing, which is preprint. Do you have any idea what is preprint? Anybody?
Yes, it's
Archive. Have you heard about this website, Archive? These are the physicists, physics people, they started with this website 30 years ago, Archive, and now many different subject domains have introduced their own archives, and it is always good to preprint, because where I would tell you that even 15 years ago, if you do anything in preprint, publisher used to make a big hue and cry, why something is available there, why it is online and all. But we also realized over a period of time that preprint is important. Why it is important? Because two things are basically important here. Number one, if you are submitting your paper to a journal, before submitting, you can also, or simultaneously also, you can put it on a preprint. Suppose archive, you will get an archive link, you will get an archive tracking number and everything over there. So your paper is available online, and this paper is basically first version of your paper. This is not the paper which is getting published, because publisher will check the paper, they will give you feedback, there will be editorial changes and everything. So the first version of paper which you have submitted to a journal will be also part of the preprint, right? First thing, many people in your domain can see that paper, they can comment on it, and you can improve your work. Secondly, nowadays, numbers, I told you numbers in the beginning, the numbers are so high that always there is a chance that your paper will be reviewed for 6 months, 8 months, 10 months. Correct? During this 8 months, suppose your work is getting compromised. I don't want to say this, but who is going to check your paper? The reviewers from your domain only. So there's always a possibility that a reviewer can pick your paper and publish them in their own name. I'm not saying this is happening randomly, but obviously there is a possibility. So if that paper is already available online in an archive, and it says, okay, this paper is by this person, so nobody can do that, right? And secondly, see, I will just tell you about how these things are happening. See, there's a case, which is a genuine case, authentic one, which came to us. 3 authors from China, look at the dates, 3 authors from China, they submitted a paper in 2020 June to us in a Springer journal. Reviewed after 3 months or 4 months in October, they received a feedback with rejection. Please revise with rejection. They haven't done anything to haven't done anything to it. They immediately submitted the paper to another journal in Elsevier. After a month, in December, November, December, they received another feedback with rejection, another feedback. Now they have 2 revision comments from Springer Journal, from Elsevier Journal, and they started working on it. After 11 months, that means 2021 October, they submitted the paper to a 3rd journal. The moment the paper was submitted, it went automatically to Authenticate or something and get checked. And the paper was plagiarized. So we said, your paper is plagiarized, we cannot publish this paper. They said, no, it is not possible. We are working on this paper for 3 years. We have submitted to you, we have submitted to Elsevier, now we worked on it, all the revision points, now we are resubmitting it. Who has done this work? So we saw there's another gentleman who has published this paper, almost 90% of it, in April 2021. So we asked these boys, why don't you go and ask these people why you have plagiarized? There should be a communication. So they wrote an email to the author who has copied and published it. Now, see how smart that gentleman is. The person said, what is plagiarism? Plagiarism means copying something from which is published work, right? That's the definition. Where is your publication? Now, in the whole process, this work has been compromised. Although we tried to find many things, investigate from our side, but unfortunately we were not able to help those authors. Or because these investigations, they take a lot of time. And if we are taking 5 months, 7 months of time for this whole investigation, this is basically huge loss to them. They have already invested 3 years for making this paper something, they want to publish. So what happened? Because that was not archived, that was not a preprint. So go for preprint. Because all good journals, they allow preprints. The only thing what you have to do, you will get a tracking number or a submission number when you preprint it. You give that number to the submitting team when you are submitting that paper. See, I have preprint. So they know you have preprint is available. When your paper is published, you just go and take the publication link and give it to the preprint. Now both the papers are linked. First version, final version. So if I want to see what is your first version, what is your final version, I want to comment it, anything. So preprint is very, very necessary. This is a website which was developed in 2020-21. OA Pen, basically, they came to all good publishers and they developed this. This talks about different kind of toolkits. If you go and see, you will get a lot of information about open access books. Our marketing team, and they work very hard to put a lot of contents which are available online, and these are open, and they are blogs. So interestingly, you can participate as a contributor also, not only as a reader. So there is something called Springboard blogs. Then we also have a fantastic one, the researcher's source. You can go, even if you are not contributing to it, your contribution can be in the form of a reader also. And you get latest information about many things about research in these blogs. And there is something called Nature Alert. If you go to our Nature website and you actually apply for an alert, every evening you will get a Nature briefing alert with 4 or 5 links which are recent links to whatever new innovations are happening. It takes just 2 minutes to see that email. If anything is in your area, you can go read, download or whatever. If it is not, just skip it. So these are the things which will keep you updated. One day myself and Nilanjan, we go to many places and we give talks together, So Nilanjan said, how much time you basically need for research, how much time you have to give when you are a researcher. So he said you have to give 1 hour every day. So as a Bengali people, mostly we are Bengali over here, so we have to give 1 hour for eating food and 1 hour, because we are food lovers, right? We cannot stay away from that. So 1 hour every day for food and 1 hour every day for research. So 365 hours of research is needed in 365 days. So discipline is the most important thing when you are working, and ethics is the most important thing. And that is not only in research. Take my word, if you are disciplined in everything. Usually I don't go and talk about OA in different platforms. I usually go and talk about ethics. But ethics is something I think you should be taught when you are a 5-year-old kid rather than when you are a 22-year-old kid and doing your research. Problem is this, our society works in such a way that we copy so many things from so many places that we forget that copying is not something, it is not a part of research, it is just part of learning, and let's contribute originality to it. This is a 2024 open access report. 25 will come, I think, in 26 June. This is a place where you will get to know a lot about what exactly is open access. The one thing which I would like to highlight here is basically transformative agreements. Transformative agreements are the agreements where institute can get benefit, and eventually if an institution is getting a benefit, obviously authors are also getting the benefit. Go and read about it. In India, we started with Manipal. Then now a lot of private institutions are coming into this foray and they are adopting transformative agreements. They started with a very small country, Iceland. The researchers in Iceland, they said, why we will pay twice to a publisher. We are buying the content and also again we are giving money for open access. So initially nobody was interested to talk to a small community in Iceland, but eventually Germany, Netherlands, everyone basically they came with the same thing, they picked up the problem. So we came out with transformative agreements and a lot of institutions are going into it. Now even people who are in senior positions, they know something called One Nation, One Subscription has come, ONOS and all. So obviously this is going to help, when government stands behind this and they do something like this where, research is getting benefited, obviously that is a big help. I am here, came from London to meet you guys, and yesterday traveled from Bhubaneswar to Kolkata by a car so that I can attend this conference. And so I have taken some pain to come here. You can take a little pain and come to me if you have a question. And if you don't like Springer, please come to me. If you like Springer, that's okay. If you have a problem, if you have a suggestion, definitely we are open. Please come and we will be able to discuss with you. And questions should not be related to open access. There are many questions there people have. And if you have a question right now also, I can take. Yeah.
Sir, I have two questions.
Yeah, you ask one first, let me answer. Yeah.
First of all, there is a common term between all the researchers, paid journal.
I know.
How do you distinguish between open access and paid journal? This is the first one. Second one is we can see in our recruitment and promotional policies, sometimes open access journals are excluded. So in this scenario, how your research community can take some steps so that this is not any remote area?
See, all open access journals are paid journals, right? But all paid journals are not good open access journals. That I can tell you. The problem is this, when a policy is being devised, certain things are not very directly addressed, and that creates a lot of confusion among people. Like if you see, like we have 3,500 journals in Springer. Out of those 3,500 journals, we have around 1,000 journals which are basically open access journals. We follow the same review process, same submission process, same publication policies for all these journals, all 3,500. It's not that. But the problem with open access journals is a lot of new journals are mushrooming every day. And people are making it as a business that they will just take a paper from you. Within 7 days, you will find, okay, your paper is accepted, no review, nothing. And immediately they will ask you, okay, give us 20,000 rupees. We are also burdened and stressed with publication thing, and we say, okay, paying 20,000 is not an issue, so you do it. For finding a paper or a journal which is, finding a journal which is a fake journal or a problematic journal, it's basically go and check Beall's list. There is a list called BEALLS, Beall's list. That's a very nice list. Share with your students also, so that they can, if they find a new journal or an old journal, they should go and immediately check whether this particular list have that name is, if it is there, so definitely there is a problem with that journal. So I am not the person who can talk about policies, what government is making or UGC is making or all these bodies are doing or, even institutions are making. But at the same time, I would like to tell you that if it is a paid journal, if it is an open access journal, that if it is a journal from a good publisher and the policies are very clearly defined over there, then there is no point in discarding that. It doesn't make any sense because they follow the same policy, same rules, same guidelines. Any questions? No questions are stupid, only answers are. So I will give the answers, don't worry. you can ask questions.
These days we have seen that many of the reviewers are uploading the paper in GPT and different websites to generate the reviews. So when in next it will be try to check the...
When Google came actually, when Google started their websites, any idea? So Google was the best friend for few years, right? 20 years. Now your best friend is changed, it's GPT. So, see, we believe that LLM is not bad. Number one, you need to understand this. Using LLM in a correct way, in an ethical way, helps you, improves your work. But at the same time, you will have to be very sure. Suppose I talk about a product called Grammarly. Now, Grammarly is there, correct? If it's a licensed product and you have a license for that, that means the content which you are uploading there is not shared with anybody. If you are going and using non-licensed products and in the open system, then whatever original work you are doing, it is getting compromised because you are training the tool. So you have to be very, very cautious what exactly you are using. So if you are using LLM for anything in your paper, why not mention it in the methodology? If you have used something, mention it in the acknowledgement very clearly. Now the problem is this: every human being looks for easy things, right? Nilanjan was showing me the other day, there is I don't know about this website, Reviewers 3. You know that? Lovely website. You just go put your content, 3 reviews will come out. So you can use it, but if you are using it, on an open system, then obviously these are all people are making this because they can do business. You can buy that. If you are just using the trial version, is fine. If you are using for your work, then you cannot use that in open forum because everything will be compromised then. So all these things you have to be very cautious. And then there are AI policies, very clear AI guidelines and policies. But as I said, people look for quick thing. Reviewers will also look for quick thing, And I have seen reviews for many conference papers, they say, reviewers has written nothing technical. Your format is not correct. Your title should be in italic. I don't know what, but people put these type of comments and they send us, this is a comment by reviewer. So you also know. So over a period of time, when we see the authors are not good, you have to see which reviewers are also not good. So filter them out. Filter them out.
There must be some filtering mechanism at some point of time or other.
Exactly.
Where the reviewers also need to be.
Exactly. Yes. So see, I always tell this to people. People don't implement. Like we are doing this in many journals. I tell this to people for conference also. Why not put the name of reviewers and you tell them beforehand that we will put your name, reviewer's name, in the last page of the conference book. That's a big recognition to them. So if you are producing their name, then that will help to encourage good reviewers to come. Because people will say, why you are not paying reviewers? This is a very standard question which we are listening from years and years. Reviewers, they don't want money at the end of the day. If you pay some petty amount to them, they are not interested. They don't have that much time where they can come. The academic people, they can earn much better than that in that 1 hour rather than doing your review. And so they are doing review because they want to keep them abreast of the latest situation, not because that they want to earn something over there. So importantly, there has to be a filter everywhere. It's not only with authors, not only for editors, also for reviewers. Great, guys. Thank you so much. I'm here. If you have any queries, I will be ready to address that. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir, for the enriching and most interactive session.
বন্ধ করে দিচ্ছি ব্যাটারিটা
We now move forward to our next distinguished speaker, Dr. Saptarshi Ghosh from the Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. Dr. Ghosh received the PhD degree from IIT Kharagpur, India in 2013. He was a Humboldt postdoctoral fellow with the Max Planck Institute for Software System, Germany. He is currently an associate professor with the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, IIT Kharagpur, and the head of the Max Planck Partner Group, IIT Kharagpur. His research interests include social network analysis, legal analytics, and algorithmic bias and fairness. Dr. Ghosh is an eminent researcher whose work in data science, social computing, and information retrieval continues to shape the national and global research landscape. His contribution to have set new benchmark in this field. Please join us to deliver your keynote address, sir. And I would also request Dr. Paramartha Datta, sir, for the felicitation session. Okay, Dr. Niranjan, please come to the stage.
পরে আর একজন দিয়ে দেবো আমি এখানে তো রেখে দেবো পরে দিলে কি ব্যাপারটা কাজে
আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে তাহলে এটা রাখুন আচ্ছা এইটা কীভাবে কাজ করে আচ্ছা
কিন্তু এখন না বললাম না
হ্যাঁ তাহলে এটা দিয়েই বলবো তো hello everyone. So am I audible? Okay, so I'll start by thanking the organizers of ICIDA for inviting me here to show me and others. So I am from IIT Kharagpur, and so I guess like I've designed a technical talk, but I won't go too much into techniques and all. Rather, I'll focus more on the big picture. So I work in AI or more particularly natural language processing, where we work with different kinds of data where people write, which humans write. Of course, nowadays LLMs also write, often better than humans. But then when we say natural language, we typically mean language or text which is written by humans. Now, in NLP there is a long history in natural language processing. It is quite a challenging field because of what people write is imprecise, right? So if something is very precise, like a computer program, then it's easy to understand it. Like a C program, a Java program, a compiler can understand it because it means only one thing if a program is written correctly. But when a human being writes or says something, then the same thing can be told in many ways. There are impreciseness and so on. Right, so there are these standard things like, say, a large herd of elephants and a herd of large elephants. So these two things are different, but then they use the same word. Then there are lots of examples like, say, I'm here to buy an apple. So what? I'm here to buy a fruit, apple, or I'm here to buy a MacBook or something from the Apple. So there are lots of these imprecise things that we understand from the context. Like if we tell to a human being, possibly the meaning will be clear from context. But often if it is just a written statement, then it's difficult to understand. So that is the challenge in natural language processing. Now, even more than that, so natural language processing over English has been carrying on for quite few decades, and it's kind of reached good performance now. But then there are lots of other languages which are not English, especially in India. So natural language processing in those languages is pretty challenging still. Especially say for India, we know that India is a land of many languages, and apart from Hindi, still most Indian languages are what is called low resource languages. That means tools, data sets, these things are missing. Like data sets is an important part of AI because models have to be trained on data sets. So if you do not have good data sets for a problem or a language, then it's difficult to build good tools for that. Right. So natural language processing in Indian languages is something which is quite challenging. I would like to mention that one of the forefathers of this field, Professor Pushpak Bhattacharya of IIT Bombay, he recently passed away actually. So he was one of the founders of, say, natural language processing in Indian languages. So that is still a challenge. Like many tasks which are done well in English will not be done so well in Hindi or Hindi is still okay, but if you go for Bengali or Malayalam, then it won't be done so well. Right. So we keep hearing examples like saying in Bengali, someone wrote that I am going for my niece's marriage, and it was interpreted as, oh, you are marrying your niece. Right. So in English, this would be fine, but the moment you shift to a low resource language, then different funny things come up. Right. So here in this talk, I am going to talk about two applications or two practical applications where Indian language text processing or NLP in Indian languages is needed. So these are works which we have done. One is from the domain of social media analysis, and the other is from the legal text analysis. So I'll keep things brief. We have papers here. If anyone is interested in the technical details, they can go through our papers. So first task is that, when there is a disaster or a crisis, then lot of information is posted on social media. Right. So how to handle those? So this is joint work with Dr. Momita Basu, who is also here, and students from IIT Kharagpur and Amity. So here, it is well known that during a disaster or a crisis, like say an earthquake or cyclone and all, lot of important information is posted on social media. Even Shomi has also done a lot of work on this topic. So especially Twitter, which is now called X, it has been seen over several years that lot of important information is posted on Twitter when there is a disaster. Now, when there is a disaster happening, you can go to, Google won't be a very good thing here, because when can something come up on Google search? Someone has to prepare a web page and then Google can show it. Google has to index it and then show. But this will take time. So Google's information is not as real time as is needed during a disaster. So that's where social media, Twitter comes into play. So when we have done this kind of works, like Momita and I have several papers on using social media for disasters, we actually see information which is very real time. That many people are trapped here, please help us. Or those people themselves are writing that 5 of us are trapped in this position, we don't have any food, please help us. So that kind of very valuable information which can be used for support during those times, that is available on social media, especially Twitter. But again, most of the works till now have focused on English. So actually, of course, there are lots of problems also in social media. You have exaggerated information, fake news, and so on. So in India, it's not so encouraged, depending on social media. But in Europe, Australia, and many other US and many other countries, during disasters, people actually rely on social media to get this kind of insights, that what is needed at this moment right now. So here, in this work, we focused on such content in Bengali. So we know that like parts of West Bengal and Bangladesh, they often have to face cyclones during the rainy season or this part. So when this kind of a event happens, a lot of information is posted on social media, and a lot of that is in Bengali because it's in Bangladesh and West Bengal. So here we are trying to classify these posts which are written in Bengali into several categories called humanitarian categories. What are humanitarian categories? I will come to that. things like, say, posts which talk about affected people, or posts which talk about what is needed, what resource is needed, maybe food is needed, these kind of things, right? So we want to understand or classify posts which talk about these different kinds of important information. So of course we want to design a classifier, a machine learning classifier, but the problem is, let's say a disaster is happening in a region where a low resource language is spoken, say Bengali, but we do not have data sets in Bengali to train such a classifier. So one way is to actually build a data set, sure, but that cannot be done during an ongoing disaster. There is no time. So by building a data set, we mean that you can actually get people to annotate, label tweets, and that's the standard way of building data sets. But during a disaster, it's not possible to give so much time. So we want to build a classifier in a language where there is no data, but we know that maybe for that problem, there is already existing data sets in a high resource language, say English. So can we use existing data sets in English to classify data in Bengali? So that was our goal in this particular task, that can existing data sets in some high resource language be used to train classifiers for a low resource language. So of course, today there is another option. We have these large language models, and they have been pre-trained over lots of tasks on different languages also. So we can directly use them. So there are these two big, approaches. So in this work we actually created a data set also. To our knowledge, there is no data set in Bengali for this kind of a disaster related NLP. So that we created. Additionally, we explored these approaches of how to utilize, say, data sets in English for classifying posts in Bengali. So we focused on this cyclone Amphan. I guess many of us will remember it. So this was a major storm in 2020. So we collected data from Twitter using these kind of keywords. I guess most of us know Bengali here, so you would be able to read it. Right, and after removing duplicates and all, we have about 2,500 posts. Here are some examples. Right, so as you see, here it's actually talking about what is needed, so this is how many people have been affected, and this is telling about what is needed or what kind of preparation is there. So there are many such posts, right? Now, so as I said, there is no such data set in Bengali. We are trying to create the first one. But then there are such data sets in English. So we try to utilize one of them. This is a very well-known data set called Crisis Bench. This was prepared by people from Qatar Computing Research Institute. So that they already have posts related to several disaster events, and these are already classified into several categories. But everything is in English. But we utilize that data set, right? So this is the writing is a bit. The font is small. Hope you can read it. You don't need to read the full thing. See, these are the labels: affected individuals, caution or advice, displaced and evacuation, donations, infrastructure damage. These are some of the important classes of information which are useful during a disaster. So for example, say infrastructure and utilities damage is of importance to, say, the army, because they have to help. Whereas, let's say, requests or missing and found people are maybe of interest to some other people. There are medical needs are important for NGOs like doctors and Red Cross and so on. So different categories of information can be used by different agencies. So we would like to get a post and classify into one of these labels. But as I said, our problem is that we don't have any data set in Bengali. So first of all, we built this data set. So many of you might know, actually building data sets is a contribution, an important contribution in AI, because unless you have data sets, you cannot train good models. So building data sets for new problems or new languages is actually a good research contribution. Many conferences, many journals today have special tracks for resource. These are called resource tracks, where you can actually build data sets and then you can publish that. Like, I mean, if your contribution is a data set, that can actually lead to a good paper. And many dataset papers are very well cited if they are used by others. So here we created a dataset using this Bengali posts. So we actually employed a well-known annotation company. So this is an annotation company which, if you pay them, they will give you volunteers for annotating data. So I'm not going into too much details, but basically we gave them these kind of instructions to the annotators, that we had 2 annotators, but they should not discuss among themselves, they should annotate individually. And then we discussed how to annotate. And then, I mean, okay, building data sets or getting annotations is also a scientific exercise, which you should follow some rules. So things like a pilot study is preferred. So you should not just tell annotators, just annotate, because who knows, they may have misinterpreted your instructions. So first we do a pilot study, say just 100 tweets, we get them annotated, then we check that is the annotation similar to what we expect. Maybe one annotator has done it correctly, the other has not. Then we have to go for a discussion to resolve the conflicts. So this step happens, maybe several cycles happen with that small pilot set study. And once we are assured that, okay, both, say, all the annotators are on the same page, they have understood the instructions, then we go for the larger dataset annotation. So those things were done. And so finally we had this dataset. This is just a comparison. So this is the dataset in English, which was already there. And this is our new dataset in Bengali. You can see there are some, so these are the percentage of posts in different topics. You can see there are some differences. Like, say, in Amphan dataset, the Bengali Cyclone Amphan dataset, there is more of caution and advice compared to the other dataset. Right? Or infrastructure and utilities damage is much more than the others. Because Cyclone Amphan was a very strong cyclone, there is a lot of infrastructure and utility damage being reported compared to other disasters. So there are some differences. Anyway, just moving on. So then we talked about how to do this problem, that our dataset is in English, our training dataset is in English, but we want to, get some classification done in Bengali. So, okay, the best approach is this, The best approach is this, that you actually have some tweets labeled for the same event. If you do have that, then that is the optimal scenario. But this is not very practical because during an ongoing disaster, you cannot do an annotation study carefully. So that's why there are these other settings, like we can use pre-existing data sets in English. Can we use that and get trained classifiers to do the classification in Bengali? And thirdly, just use large language models. Okay. So, I'm not going into too much details here. We studied, so these details are in the paper, the link is later. So we studied different approaches. So one approach would be, say, to translate everything to Bengali. So the whole training set you also translate to Bengali, and then all data is in Bengali. Then you train classifiers. Other would be you translate it everything to English, and then try. There are also cross-lingual classifiers and so on. I'm not going into much details here. And of course, there are now these large language models which typically have been trained on so large data that they typically know English, Bengali, and most other languages. So that's why we can use them directly. So we designed this prompt, which, large language models, you need to give a prompt. So we gave this kind of a prompt where we actually told what are the different categories. We informed the large language model what are the different categories, and then asked them to give the label for a tweet. Okay, so, and these are standard like multilingual models. Again, not going into detail, but like if anyone is, those who are working in NLP these are well-known models in this domain. These are multilingual models which have been trained for different Indian languages also. Things like Indic BERT and M multilingual BERT. These are models which understand lots of languages. Okay, fine. So now I'll just, I'll just give some high-level insights. So here you see we have different approaches. So we found that, of course, so this setting is if you have training data from the same event, like from cyclone Amphan itself, you have training data. Of course, that is the best. So the highest values are here, right? By the way, even the highest value is 0.68 because this is a challenging problem. Like typically in such a challenging problem, you cannot expect 0.9, 0.85 performance. Okay, maybe if it's just a 2-class classification, then fine. But this is a 12-class classification of natural language text. This is challenging. So 0.68 seems low, but given the complexity of the problem, it's reasonable. So this setting is not very practical. Then you need training data from the same event. These settings are more practical, that we are using data, existing data, but in English for classifying cyclone Amphan data in Bengali. And if you see performances are not so good, we are reaching 0.53. That is the highest it seems. Compared to that, large language models, you see till GPT 3.5 is 0.5. So we have better approaches here, so 0.53, 0.52. But GPT-4 is so good that it achieves 0.61. Okay. So that is of course, I mean, these models like GPT and now DeepSeek, etc., Llama, recent versions of Llama, they are now so good that they can do many tasks better than the traditional models. Of course, if you can give, so in many tasks, so in this particular task, we see GPT-4 kind of beating other practical methods. So unless you have data from the same event, it's better to use GPT-4. Of course, there are other complex tasks, which one of them I am going to talk about right now, where even modern LLMs like GPT-4 are not so good yet. Right, so, but in this task at least GPT-4 surprised us by getting the highest. Because GPT-4 also has a good knowledge of Bengali, it seems. It has been trained over so much data that even Bengali it understands pretty well. Though we have seen in tasks like, say, even more low resource languages, like languages of Northeast India, there even LLMs today are not so good because they are so low resource that, say, Manipuri and other things, they are not so good yet. Okay, so I'll just move on. Okay, so this is our paper which we published in this. This is a reputed journal in the topic of disaster management. So this is a recent paper. If you are interested in more technical details, you can see this paper. Okay. How much more time should I take? Another 10 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes. Okay, I'll just move on to the next part of the talk. This is a complete shift of topic. This is in legal. Okay. So again, I won't go into too much details, but legal text is very much different from, say, social media text. Social media text is very informal, short, and legal text is opposite. Very formal, long, complex text. And so natural language processing over legal text is like on the other side, but very much challenging. So I'll just give you a very brief background. So, okay, let's leave these things. So I think in India is a common law country. So actually there are two pillars of Indian law. We have some statutes. We have some written down laws like the Constitution, Indian Penal Code, which has recently been replaced by Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So these are written down laws. But then not everything is written in the laws. So for that, important judgments given by the Supreme Court or the High Courts, they also become laws. So if in an ongoing case, a lawyer can argue that 10 years back, there was this case, there was this judgment given, and the situation is very similar to my case. So the judgment should also be similar. This is the principle of common law, that similar situations merit similar judgments. So if a lawyer can figure out a case which is similar to the current case, then they can claim that the judgment should be similar to what was given 10 years back. So because of this, when there is an ongoing case, lawyers have to go through lots of materials. They have to go through lots of prior cases, statutes, and so on. And this is where AI comes in. Now the amount of data is so much that human lawyers cannot figure out everything on their own. So that's why they need AI, NLP to help them in their search, to make sense of such big data. Now, NLP on legal is quite challenging. Actually, very few people in India at least work on this topic. I'll just give you some brief idea of why it's so challenging. First of all, documents are very long. It's easy to have case judgments which are hundreds of pages long. In some cases, like Babri Masjid issue and all, it can be 3,000 pages long. So huge documents. So, average number of words in an Indian Supreme Court judgment is 4,300, which is quite long. If you go to UK Supreme Court, it's 14,000. These are much longer than, say, research papers and other types of texts which we normally deal with. Then, language is complex. So actually, by the way, so many natural language processing models, including large language models, could not take in so much data at once. Till GPT 3.5, which is ChatGPT, we could not give a full case judgment to an LLM at once. We had to chunk it and give. Last couple of years, some long context models have been developed, like GPT-4, like recent versions of Llama, which can take in a large amount of text together. So that is one challenge in itself. Second, text is very complex. Long sentences, many phrases, and so on. Anyone who has read legal language, when we don't understand, so it's difficult for a machine to understand. To the extent that even identifying where a sentence ends can be challenging for a machine, for an algorithm. If you don't believe me, let me show you one sentence, just one sentence from an Indian legal judgment. This is one sentence. 71 words only. This is pretty small. There are much longer sentences. Like one page can be one sentence. And if you just count the number of stops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there are 9 or 10 stops in this sentence. Which stop actually ends the sentence?
Global stop.
Sorry?
Global stop.
Yeah.
With the local stop.
So which is the global stop which ends the sentence? It's very difficult to understand for a machine. Right, and of course, this is just one sentence. You will just have a page with, sentence after sentence. Which stops end the sentences? Even research papers have been written on that. Right, so it seems strange, but legal language has these problems. Another thing, as I was telling, most of the tools are developed or trained on US and European text. So they have problems with Indian names and other things. So just to demonstrate this, NER is a standard NLP problem, named entity recognition. So here the problem is to identify names of organizations, people, and so on. There are two very standard or very popular named entity recognizers, one by Stanford and the other called Spacy. Those who program in Python, you will know Spacy is a well-known tool. So here we are using Stanford NER and Spacy on some Indian legal text. Life Insurance Corporation, India. From our knowledge, we know that this is one company. But when we use Stanford NER here, it says life is a person, Insurance Corporation is an organization, and India is a location. So it does not recognize that the whole thing is one entity. Okay. Here is the text. We are using this popular named entity recognizer to figure out person names and all. If you can see Gulabai Desai is a person name. It has identified correctly. But later, when just Gulabai is mentioned, it says this is an organization. Here, Lonavla, we know it's a place near Bombay. But here, it is saying it's a person. Then here is an Indian name which it has completely missed. It has not understood that there is a name there. So these things happen because most of these tools are trained on US and European text. So they cannot recognize Indian names. Often they cannot understand there is a name here at all, or they confuse between names. So okay, so these are some problems here. I won't go into much detail here because of time, but I just wanted to talk about just one work we did and we are still doing. So judgments are long and not everyone has the time. Even lawyers take a lot of time in reading through the whole judgment. So often they like summaries. So summarization of legal case judgments is a popular or a practical problem. Now we are adding one complexity here. Suppose a common person wants to understand a judgment. Even if we show a summary to them in such complex English, most people in India won't understand. Like less than 20% of Indian people are so conversant with English to understand legal text. So can we show them a summary in a Indian language? So let's say the judgment is written in English, complex English, but can we show them a summary in simplified Bengali or Hindi? Very challenging problem, but we are trying to do that. So this was the first work we did. So essentially we have, so this is what English to Hindi. So we have judgments in English and we are trying to give a summary in simplified Hindi. So, again, there was no such data set. There is anyway very less number of data sets in Indian law, and that too in Hindi, there was very little. So again, we built the first data set. For that, we took advantage of one site called Live Law. Live Law is a popular site among law practitioners. Whenever the Supreme Courts or High Court give a judgment, they put up some news articles. And the thing is, they give the news article both in English and Hindi. So these news articles can be thought of as summaries of the judgment. So here is an example. Say, in November 2023, a judgment was pronounced. And this site, they put up these two news articles. If you can read Hindi, you will understand this is the same article. Right. So we collected these kind of articles, judgments and their English summaries and their Hindi summaries. And then we tried to automate this. So yeah, we created this data set. And then typically, see, there are again two approaches intuitively. Given a English judgment, either you first summarize it in English and then translate it into Hindi, or there are some what are called cross-lingual summarizers, which you can actually train it that given an English judgment, you give me a summary in Hindi. So we tried both these approaches. Again, I'm not going into too much details. There are lots of summarization algorithms for legal judgments, including some developed by us. So we tried them. And also we tried popular machine translation models. So translation is another very popular NLP task. Like Google Translate is there, but there are many translators specifically for Indian languages. Google Translate is quite good, but so this IndicTrans is a translator prepared by IIT Chennai, IIT Madras. So there's this AI for Bharat team. They have prepared this IndicTrans. This is quite a good translator for Indian languages. Often it does better than Google Translate for Indian languages. So we tried all these things. Again, I'm not going into details. I'm just showing you some numbers. You don't have to go through all the numbers. The whole thing to note is, so these numbers are standard metrics for summarization. The higher the better. So if you see English summary, scores are like 84, 83. But the moment you go to Hindi, it's 74. So 10 point drop. And that is because the translator is introducing errors. So the English summary is, okay, 84% good. The moment you go to Hindi, it's degrading because the translator is introducing errors. However, that is still better than this. If you see, this is direct English to Hindi summarization. Here we are getting 75. So this is better than going to English and then translate. Right. So these are some insights we have got. This is by no means a completed work. We are now trying to improve upon these things. But yeah, this is a challenging problem. Like given a legal judgment in English, you are trying to get a summary in Hindi or Bengali. Okay. Yeah, so again, this is the conference paper. So this is a really top conference in natural language processing. So this this is the data set. If you are really looking for a really challenging problem, then you can try out this. Okay, this is my last slide. What about using large language models? So we have actually tried that, and we see that as long as you are asking it to generate a summary in English, LLMs are quite good. But if you give them a judgment in English and then ask them to generate a summary in Hindi or Bengali, then LLMs are not performing well, including GPT-4. Because, I mean, they cannot do that. It seems that they cannot do the two tasks together, like summarization and translate. Individually, they can do both tasks. The moment you ask them to do it together, they are producing a very strange mixture of English and Hindi. Right. So this is one problem where even GPT-4 is not so good. I don't know how GPT-5 will be, we have to see. But then even GPT-4 is not so good in this problem. Rather, we find that simpler models is better. Right. I'll just end with another thought. This is another line of work which we are doing. I'm not presenting it here. That nowadays the idea is that whatever be the problem, just throw GPT-4 at it or DeepSeek. Now, these are billion parameter models, 200 billion, 300 billion. So if you are only caring about performance in the task, then maybe GPT-4 is the answer. But there are other things to think about, things like sustainability. These large language models, they take huge amounts of energy. Even GPT 3.5, studies have shown that GPT 3.5 on one day takes as much energy, electric energy, as 17,000 homes in the US. And homes in US are actually taking more energy than, say, homes in India. Yeah. So 17,000 homes in US, the amount of energy it takes, GPT 3.5 takes on one day. And GPT-4 must be much levels of magnitude higher. So the community also needs to think about these things. Maybe GPT-4, it's not a good idea to push GPT-4 at everything. Rather, we have seen that if you can intelligently train smaller models, they can often perform better than GPT-4 or GPT 3.5 and at much lesser cost. Right, so even a 1 billion model can perform better than GPT 3.5 if you train it well, if you give good quality training. So AI, now some people are starting to talk about it, sustainable AI. That is something which maybe we should also focus more on in the coming years, that it's not only about performance, but things like fairness, sustainability. These are also goals to keep in mind, not only performance. Typically, that is how the scientific community progresses. Initial hype is about performance. Everyone is looking at accuracy, precision. But when things reach a certain level, then people understand that you have to think about other things too. Let's say you are achieving 95% accuracy in classification. But the 95% accuracy is only for males. For females, it's 62%. Then you are compromising on fairness. Rather, maybe another classifier is better, which is achieving 88% for males, but 87% for females. So performance may be a bit lower, but at least there is parity among males and females. So fairness is another goal, which is the machine learning or the NLP community is worried about that. Similarly, sustainability is another goal which possibly the community should keep in mind going forward, because these models are taking increasing amounts of energy now. So yeah, there are like newer tools, but also newer challenges which I guess the community needs to keep in mind. Okay, I'll end my talk here. Thank you. So yeah, any questions or suggestions?
Are these companies making money out of the GPT 3.5 or 5 because they consume a lot of energy? So are they really making profit with that?
Apparently, otherwise they would shut it down. right? So of course they are having to pay a lot for energy, I would imagine. But they are making huge amounts of money because we are using them more and more, right? So, by the way, I mean, it's not that the companies are not at all worried. For example, IBM has recently launched their line of LLMs called Granite. And they have made it a point that their GPUs are actually energized by renewable forms of energy. This is something that they actually write in Granite. The specialty is that our GPUs are powered by like renewable forms of energy. So it's not that the companies are not at all worried, but yeah, I mean, that is the cause of concern because these GPUs and all, they're taking huge amounts of energy. But I still believe they're making profit.
And one more thing about the low resource language that you are mentioning was that we don't have enough data sets that for like the languages like Tamil or Malayalam, we don't have enough data set, you mean? Because they didn't digitize that, or like when you say low resource, what does it mean? Like they don't have enough?
You are saying, what do I mean by low resource languages? Yeah.
They didn't digitize that data set, like English, they have that, right? So a lot of books they digitize and they do it, but I don't think in other languages they have that.
Yeah, so low resource language, one problem is that most of the content is not digitized. And also, you know, just getting the raw data is not enough. You need some sort of labeled data to train good models. So these large language models, yes, you need a lot of text for pre-training them, but a model will not become ChatGPT or GPT-4 if they are only pre-trained. You need a human feedback loop. You need some supervision. So that is missing. So digitization is of course the first step, but that is not enough. Only some supervision, some annotated data sets also needed.
What about Sanskrit? Don't we have enough data sets for that?
Okay, maybe the best person to ask this is my colleague, not me, Professor Pawan Goyal, because he is the one expert in Sanskrit here. Just from talking with him, I believe that same thing as he said, there is very less digitized content. They are trying to develop. So, for example, basic NLP tools like part of speech taggers.
But we have enough manuscripts so far as Sanskrit is concerned. Why are we not digitizing those?
I guess the effort. I mean, the huge amount of effort is needed. They are trying. It's not that no one is trying. They are trying to develop smaller tools, like even the basic tools like part of speech tagging. For Sanskrit, it was not so good. They have recently developed something. So there are projects funded by Indian government, which like Professor Pawan Goyal is leading one of them. So they are trying to develop it. But I guess things take time because often these, like in legal also we have seen, often these texts are very old and the physical quality of pages is bad. If you put that in an OCR, it's not getting digitized properly. The OCRs are also not so good at reading Sanskrit or Malayalam or Tamil compared to say English. And often the physical texts are not of good quality. Right. So we recently did a work on developing the first translation corpus for Indian legal text. And we had this problem that often old acts and all, the quality was bad. OCRs were not able to recognize them correctly. So we are doing them, but there are challenges. Okay, one challenge I must say just from the legal field, in India, the importance of data is not understood that much. Maybe the last 3 or 4 years we have started understanding. Let's say legal data. When we try to build a data set, a lot of time goes in collecting data from different sources and all. Whereas say even many countries like Europe, China, they have excellent data sets, very organized. Like Europe, the European Court of Human Rights, for every judgment, they actually publish it in all European languages and put up on their website. So if someone wants to build a translator for European languages, in the legal domain, the data set is very easily available. In India, it's very difficult. We took 6-7 months to develop a small scale website, small scale data set. We could not scale it up much because of the effort needed. So in India, we are still not so open about data. Just to give an example, the National Judicial Data Grid, they have They say they have lots of, they have all judgments, true. But you go to access them, they have put a captcha. If it is public, why put a captcha? Let people download it at bulk. So I don't know why. So they say it's public, it's for public consumption. But they put a captcha for every PDF, which prevents us from crawling data at bulk. Because, understanding the captcha and filling it up automatically is a problem. So I guess the people who have data need to collaborate more with data science people or AI people to make the data sets more public. There can be concerns like privacy and all, but maybe not giving data is not a solution to that.
Like I want to put one example of turmeric. We have been using turmeric from long time, right? So Russian people, they work on this particular turmeric, right? Okay. So when the things came public, so Indian government objected that this is the thing which we have been using for last decades, multi-decades, right? So this is due to the dearth of data set, what you can say. The benefit of the turmeric is also not there.
Yeah, in India, data set is, availability of data, good quality data is a problem, which we people in the data science community always face. Like we are always like 2 steps behind, say, Europe or China, because the initial thing, the data is not there. So we can use the same models, but if we have less data, they won't be as good as the others. Okay, thank you again.
Thank you so much. Before moving to our next keynote speaker, we are deeply honored to recognize and request to come to the stage Mr. Shomit Chakraborty, the chairman of Nirmala Foundation and patron of ICIDA 2025, for his unceasing guidance and support. Sir, your unwavering support and vision continue to strengthen our institution's academic initiatives. I request Mr. Anindo Bose and Dr. Professor Tan Chi Pin to come here on stage and felicitate Mr. Chakraborty.
চক্রবর্তীর গিফটটা কোথায় ছিল মেমেন্টো ছিল
Next, I would like to call Dr. Shovik Chakraborty, Associate Professor of Eminent College of Pharmaceutical and Technology, for his immense contribution to the education sector. And also, I would like to call Dr. Paramartho Dotto to felicitate him. Sir, please come on the stage. Thank you so much, sir. Next, I am thrilled to introduce our next keynote speaker, Dr. Nilanjan De, who is a professor in Techno International, Newtown, Kolkata, and a visiting fellow of University of Reading, UK. He has authored over 300 research articles in peer-reviewed journals, international conferences, and 40 authored and 70 edited books. His research interests include medical imaging and machine learning. Moreover, he actively participates in program and organizing committees for prestigious international conferences, including World Conference on Smart Trends in Systems, Security and Sustainability. International Congress on Information and Communication Technology, International Conference on Information and Communication Technology for Sustainable Development, etc. He is also the editor-in-chief on International Journal of Ambient Computing and Intelligence, associate editor of IEEE Transactions on Technology and Society, and series co-editor of Springer Tracks in Nature-Inspired Computing and Data-Intensive Research from Springer Nature, and Advance in Ambiguous Sensing Application for Healthcare from Elsevier, etc. Furthermore, he is an editorial board member of IEEE Data Description. He is having citations over 27K and high H index 80. He is a fellow of IETE and member of IEISOC, etc. Dr. Dey has made exemplary contribution to the fields of the computational intelligence, medical imaging, and emerging digital technologies. His multidimensional research footprints, international collaboration continue to inspire scholars around the globe. And for the felicitation purpose, I would like to call Dr. Surajit Gun to be on stage. I would like to call Dr. Abhishek Bhattacharya to come on stage, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Very good afternoon to all of you. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks especially to Abhishek Da and Soumi. So I will talk about shift the script. So it's not typically shift, rather it's better to say drift. Before going to the drift, let's talk about the one particular word which generally, as an editorial perspective, people used to say, don't go for paraphrasing. But paraphrasing is very important in NLP. There are many cases where paraphrasing is important. Say, for example, if you don't want variable data, but you need a large amount of data, for those cases, paraphrasing is very good. One example is this intent classification. So if you are doing a particular work on, say, chatbot designing or development, where you need different, say, one particular sentence, the intent should be same, and you can paraphrase those in a different form, different way, and there can be a lot of data which is very similar. Say, for example, book me a flight, similar to can you reserve a plane ticket, can it's maybe arrange a flight ticket for me. So all are similar. For GPT, it's a very common term nowadays, for chatbot, so these all such kind of sentences which are paraphrased, they are not variable data, but they are volumetric data. So as much as variable data you can come up with, or large data you can come up with, the system should be more robust. So for this purpose, for intent classification, this is very important. Second thing is for the machine translation. So if you are going for translating, say, from diverse source target, so from one language to another language translation, almost similar meaning, paraphrased meaning, two paraphrased language, maybe one English, one in Bengali, all intended same, but it can also increase the volume of the data. So paraphrase is important. There is another case, say for example, you are going for back translation. So from English, you are going to French, then you paraphrased it, then after that again English. So the meaning is almost same, but for cross-linguistic cases, it's very important. So the first case is, a case like once you are going for any multilingual study, this is very important, machine translation, which actually we did a universal network framework design. And second thing is, if you are going for this back translation is important for cross-lingual cases, applications. And there is another example, question answers. So if you are asking different question, if the answer is same, say for example, this is a question who wrote Hamlet, the answer is always William Shakespeare, but you can paraphrase into different question form, and you have a lot of data. So whoever the person asking the question, the answer will be always same. So you can actually train your whole model, not for memorizing for a particular sentence, rather there can be a variable data, and all these questions are already well trained. So any question it can give an answer. So for these, there is a visual question answer also. There are a lot of people are working on this visual question answer. That is a different area where such type of cases you will not encounter. But if it is a non-visual cases, like linguistica, in paradigm if you are working, then you will face such kind of issue. Another thing is the text summarization, which is very common nowadays. So if you go for text summarization, say if you go for paraphrasing, different paraphrasing, you will see almost same meaning, same thing you are coming out. It's a different wording, same essence, but they are trying to come up with a generalized form. So say for example, Elicit, or if you are using say SCI Space or maybe any other summarizer tool, nowadays there are many tools are available, you will see it's help you to come up with a similar meaning, but come up with the model will train with lot of different such kind of data. And these are the good part. And Saptosi was talking about this low resource languages. One is also Bengali, though even though it's in UK, it's a second language, but still it's still low. There are different reasons, because Bengali people not used to write Bengali in social media. So if you're working in social media, collecting data from Facebook or LinkedIn, I don't know how many Bengali people used to write there in Bengali. Or in Sanskrit, the reason is, I don't know any of you have ever write a single line in social platform in Sanskrit. So that's why it's still low. But and the digitalization part is a different part, that is also a kind of, but here what I'm saying is, the paraphrasing, if you are doing this kind of thing, it's not visual paraphrasing, but the visual font recognition database is available. But if it is a non-visual one, then this kind of thing, which is for the multilingual LLM system, it's very important to go for the paraphrasing. So paraphrasing is important. The paraphrasing is a kind of thing which actually help augment data for NLP. If you are actually augmenting data in NLP, many of the cases paraphrase is important. So I'm saying the positive side of paraphrasing. So if you are coming up with paraphrase, you can go for machine translation, you can go for such kind of low language processing, maybe resource language processing, or maybe you can go for such kind of scenario, the text summarization. It helps a lot. So again, I'm saying it's not for variable data. It's similar intent. The essence will be same. But the thing is, if you train your system with such kind of paraphrase data, the data will be volumetric. So to increase and to different way, if you want to address one particular question, the system will be much more robust. Now there is another example like sentiment classification. So always might be the sentiment at the end, it might be the positive or negative, or maybe you are going for neutral sentiment. Keeping the sentiment polarity same, you can come up with different paraphrase, so that the answer in different recognition scenario, it will give you the same kind of polarity. Even for the sentiment analysis also, if you go for the Platchik model, maybe all those different modality will get actually different say sentiment you can analyze from this. So sentiment, emotions, this can be characterized. If you want to categorize, this paraphrasing helps a lot. But before going to the drifting part, this is one line. Say for example, I will be there in 5 minutes. So the meaning is I will be there in 5 minutes. For an US guy, 5 minutes means he should be there within 1 or 2 minutes, maximum at most 5 minutes. For a German guy, exactly after 5 minutes. Maybe for a Japanese person, exactly .5, maybe similar you can say, he will be outside the room. For Brazil, 20-30 minutes is very common. So if you are saying 5 minutes, that means 20-30 minutes. And for Indians, so he had not started. So the same sentence, and the thing is, it's like you just wait for 5 minutes, I'm coming after 10 minutes. So what I'm saying is, that means 5 minutes is basically a social buffer. So for us, when I'm saying 5 minutes, it's a social buffer. So same meaning, if you train with the system, the entire machine learning model might fail or drifted in India. So it will work fine in USA, it will not work in Japan, might be it will not work in India or maybe even Brazil. So your machine learning model, once giving 90% accuracy, that doesn't mean that it will work every places, first thing. And the machine learning model will work similarly tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow also not to work. Or it might happen, gradually we'll see every day the accuracy is decreasing. So like say for example, last 10 days, every day, every morning, you run the same code, you are getting different accuracy and it is deeping. Or it might happen all of a sudden from tomorrow, the accuracy is completely different. Say for example, in Starbucks, in an airport, might be you are trying to predict how many coffee cup will sell. And day before yesterday, it was around 500. And yesterday, it was 5,000 because of this indigo or this, the things which are going on. So it's unpredictable. So it's a kind of machine learning drift. So it's one drifting. It's a kind of conceptual drifting. It can be data drifting. It can be different types of drifting. I will talk about only one particular drifting, and which is not like concept drifting or data drifting, which is a semantic drifting. So how semantic actually drift? Now, before going to this, see, for example, one patient is saying that the patient reports that I am feeling anxious. The paraphrase will be, I am feeling nervous. It's similar. But anxious means, in a medical terminology, it's a GAD. It's a typical disease. So you have a categorized disease. One particular disease which is a generalized anxiety disorder. But if you're talking about nervous, it's a common thing. Means I was worried maybe something like stress. You are talking about stress. It's not a disease. So see, the difference is by this paraphrasing, it's from the severity is from the moderate, it's changed to mild. So that means your machine learning model, even if you're paraphrased and augment, then what will happen? It is losing the severity. So from moderate, it is getting diluted and it is getting. So this is one example. Like legal, Saptosida was mentioning the legal. So this is one, say for publisher point of view, say for example, your proposal is getting void. A similar paraphrase can be your proposal is getting invalid. The thing is, once it is void, there is no other option. It's void. But one is invalid, there is an option that it can be valid also. So if you are behind some publishing house and if you can justify, maybe they can actually roll back their decision and they can say it's a valid one. So invalid and null are not similar in legal term. Yeah, sorry. So this is one example. Say for example, business. Say if you are saying about net loss. So net loss is very common term. But if which is paraphrased, say it is a slight, say deficit is there. But slight deficit is not a terminology, financial terminology. But paraphrase actually gives you such kind of result. But you are augmenting the data by this way, if paraphrased, which is a very common way. So you increase the data volume. But these problems are there. So these are actually drifting the context. Whole context will be drifting. And see the next one. Though it's not very, it's a back translation. So if you're writing in Bengali, like Python code phasi din, the Bengali it will convert into, say, execute Python code. So in a reverse way, if you do from English to Bengali, might not be the same. It will be different. So the thing is, it failed to understand the drifting. Another thing is, say for example, I compile the C code. It is giving something in Quillbot, it is giving that C code will together. So compile doesn't understand what the compile actually is. So it's very much, compilation, execution, these are all different terminology. So they don't understand. So this is the main problem of using Grammarly or maybe the Quillbot, because they fail to understand the technical terminology. It simply convert, it simply translate. They don't understand the contextual meaning. But the co-pilot is something different. Because once you ask the co-pilot, Fasidin, it will say, it's good, smart enough, because it's trained with a lot of different contextual data. So even the data is maybe context sensitive, it's already trained, because it's a lot of data. So that's why the output will be something like very much thematic, specific, narrow scope, and it will say, no, you are saying different. It should be executed. So the copilot is good enough. But many of the cases you will face such kind of scenario where this machine learning model actually struck because of this context shifting or rather drifting. Like say idiom if you are using, say break the ice. It's a very common thing. How can you break the ice? Or maybe starting the conversation. So it's a common thing. Both are same. But breaking ice is basically there is a social tension. The tension is you are actually maybe feeling shy or something, so that you are not be able to start. So there is some social aspect associated with that. But start conversation, there is no social aspect. You can directly start. So there is something which frozen, which you need to cross. So breaking of ice is basically there is a frozen layer. But once you start conversion, there is no frozen layer. So this is interesting thing that the metaphor, if fail to understand the metaphor, means what is trying to actually mean. This is another example, break a leg. So if you're dealing with say idiom, break a leg is something like the break a leg before the sow. So it means that you are giving a good wish. But once you use this, the translator, or maybe you are going into different linguistic way you are trying to capture the meaning, it's something like shoer age ekta pa bhenge dao. So this will actually happen. And the temporal drifting. So 10-20 years back, if you used to write this way, cloud storage, and now the meaning is completely different. After a certain period of time, you will see every time the sentence meaning is changing. As Satosha was mentioning, apple. So apple is a fruit, or it's a kind of device. It failed to recognize. Amazon. So streaming in Amazon. So you are talking about streaming in Amazon. What you are talking about? You are talking about the streaming of a river, or you are talking about streaming in Amazon platform. So over a period of time, it failed to understand, even go for the paraphrasing, it failed to understand the inherent meaning. So you can see the Copilot response will be good enough, but if you go for any outdated database, you will see these problems are still there. Lexical drifting. See the why gay? Gay was actually, it's a word which is happy. But it's now from this carefree, it's a kind of, say, a sexual identity now. So it completely changed. And in our school days, gay we used to use basically for happiness. I mean, saying this. But it's a drifting, it's a lexical drifting. Domain drifting, regression. We are talking about regression in the morning. So regression in machine learning model is something you are trying to, say, establishing relationship in between the variables. But in different area, if you are talking about, say, medical, regression means it's dipping. See, in psychology, that means you are going backtrack. Means in our childhood days you are regressing. So it's a backtracking. So different cases, this regression is different. And another thing is this, the sentiment drifting. See, for example, the first one, I feel sick. It's a completely negative one. But once you go for this, if the concept was sick, basically for this Gen Z generation, this particular generation, they are saying it's an awesome. So the sick meaning is different. And the pragmatic difference. Say, for example, could you please open the window? It's a kind of, there is a polite tone, but the tone completely change if you go for paraphrase. Like, can you open the window? So there is a kind of instruction. So, maybe it's a statement kind of thing you have to do. But the politeness is not there. So what I'm talking about is all these conceptual drifting, means the contextual drifting. There might be the sentiment drifting, maybe the idiom drifting. There might be different. This all comes under one particular category, which is called the semantic drift. So once you're increasing your data by paraphrasing, it's good. But you should have to take care about these things, that is the semantic drift. In machine learning model, we always talk about this fairness, how the reliable model is, everything is fine. But there is another thing, which is the drifting. Means my machine learning model might give you today a result, tomorrow the result will be different, day after tomorrow will be different. There can be sudden drift, there can be a continuous drift, there can be a drift. You will see there is a, say, first COVID, second COVID, in between the classifier accuracy fall down, then again there is an increase. So it's a kind of regressive. So there are a lot of type of drifting are there, and generally machine learning models are not good enough to handle such kind of drifting. I am talking about this semantic drifting, which is very much well linked with paraphrase. Now, the last line. So once you're talking about this drifting, this all different say meaning, but unintentionally you are actually facing such kind of scenario because of this augmentation. There can be not only linguistic, it can be temporal, it can be cultural, it can be contextual, different meaning it can come up with. So the anxiety and the nervous in medical science, it's a kind of lexical drifting. No pain and denial pain is a contextual drifting. So discharge in hospital, discharge from the office are completely different. It's a domain one. The another one, that's the positive and the good one. So your good medical term, they are completely, it's a level one. Complete level will change. So in classifier, the level will be drifted. So one level to another level, severity level. And the last one, the tablet. The meaning of tablet and the meaning in technology in tablet, it's a kind of temporal changes. Over a period of time, the meaning of the sentences getting changed. So this is how the classifier actually behave. So if you change, if you not actually include these things, these semantic changes in your classifier, then what will happen, you will see the first case, maybe the regression will not give you a good result. Second case, LSTM. Might be third one, the random forest will not give you. So there are a lot of different classifier where you will see because of the severity dilution, because of the say wrong word selection, label flipping, or maybe the outdated kind of data, your classifier will give you completely different result. So this drift need to be checked. So one solution can be counterfactual. So counterfactual is kind of what if scenario. So before encountering the actual scenario, you are creating different synthetic scenario. So say for example, I have a risk and you are trying to find out lot of potential risk and you have strategize how to encounter those risks. There is no as such risk, but if you have all strategy before encountering the risk, that means you can simulate what if the scenario actually occurs, you can face it more faster. So this is how counterfactual actually works. So in counterfactuals, maybe out of 5 you are getting 3.8. If the waiting time maybe 5 minutes, but if you change waiting time from 5 minutes to 2 minutes, maybe the survey will give you a result that it is 4.8 satisfaction level. So that means what I'm saying is by only changing one parameter, you can change. So now in semantic also, if you change the temporal one, if you change the lexical one, and if you have prior such kind of scenario, if you face this kind of, actually in reality, if you face, you might have some strategy, how can you actually cope up with this scenario. So this can be one solution, which is not very much robust again. And another thing is, what will be the strategy or the mitigation procedure? That can be machine unlearning strategy. So unlearning is something like you are forgetting your data. So if you train your system and after 10 years, you are removing some of the data, but your classifier will give you exactly similar result. So that is basically the concept of unlearning, forgetting data. Now here, you can remove the tablet, which was previously used because of the temporal drifting. Now you put a new kind of tablet. And if you train your system with the new trap, maybe this unlearning procedure can help you to come up with a mitigation strategy. And there are a lot of different other strategy. Few of the strategy I'm mentioning. One is the domain specific. It's Saptosi again mentioning this thing. Very much it should be contextual. So if you're dealing with say medical data, say law, you should have a proper law archive. That is one thing. Or if you're dealing with medical data, it should have MI 3 or maybe there are 4 also coming. So these data sets should be there so that you can, that medical text you can actually compare. It should be very much domain specific. And the context error, you have to know the context. Even there should be a threshold. Even you are using any kind of transformer-based model also, there should be a threshold. There can be ontological strategy also. Like in USA, college means, it's an university. But in India, college means it's undergrad students. So the ontology needs to be trained properly. And another is the temporal drifting. You have to train your system how the word meaning is getting changed over a period of time. Just like as I mentioned, Amazon or Apple, something like that. So the last one should be human in a loop. It's very important. So every expert system, as we are moving human in a loop machine learning model, so human intervention is required. Maybe labeling is not always possible, but semantic drifting, if you want to check, if you want to control, human intervention is very much required. So otherwise, once you use paraphrase, he will become hell. So you will see automatically it will change. So before going to conclude, how fast, we all know the rumors spread very, very fast. There is an interesting paper which actually derive how the rumor spread. So 8:15 and 9:45, how fast rumor can spread. So it's a similar thing, paraphrasing also. Like it's slow poison. It's like if you paraphrase and next again you paraphrase and then you continue paraphrasing, then what will happen? You will see it's not too fast like rumor, but the cycle is almost similar. So gradually, I mean, it's over a period of time, you will see the complete semantic drifting, and the machine learning model are giving different result, and that is what actually happening. So it's a kind of, that you can read this, go through this. It's a kind of wildfire, fire, and it's kind of erosion. So it's a slow process. Before conclude, so this rumor spreading and paraphrasing, it's a kind of, you can see both are, there needs to be a safeguard so that it will not erode. But one is actually affecting the machine learning models, and one is, the publishing also. So paraphrase, there's a good side and bad side. So publication, maybe we need to rethink where should we stop. But in machine learning, paraphrase is, you have to do paraphrasing. Thank you very much. Any question?
Sir, why do we not use fine-tuning? Using pre-trained LLM models for training?
See, pre-trained model, as I've mentioned, the pre-trained model, pre-trained model, it's on huge data set. So after that LLM, you are moving into SLM. So you are actually going into more, incentful, maybe making it narrow down, more thematic. So somehow you are narrowing down. So that is what I am trying to say. Even it's a pre-trained model, it's fine. But pre-trained model generally always trained with good data, never trained with bad data. Say for example, one example I'm giving. Maybe you heard about ImageNet. All ImageNet data are so-called good data. There is not a single bad data. So that's why, based on that model, if you conclude, they never actually seen bad data. So that means narrowing down is very important. That's why I'm saying sometimes it should be case to case. From country to country, data will change. From province to province, data will change. So everything is very much. You can narrow down one problem statement, and you will see tomorrow and yesterday, day before yesterday, the machine learning model will be drifted because of the data. So there can be a lot of different drifting. One drifting is the semantic drifting, which I mentioned. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now go for the break for lunch. And we kindly request all the delegates.
Last slide. Last slide. Where is the last slide?
Thank you.
The last slide. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Requesting all of you to go to the lunch.
পাঁচটা ছবি পাঠিয়ে চিন্তা ছিল অবদান দিল
তুমি অ্যাকচুয়ালি তুমি সরি
পাঁচটা ছবি তুলে পাঠিয়েছি চিন্তা ছিল অবদান